All right. Shoot. J Mac and Philip D. But hi, folks. Gelatinous Rube here. J Mac. Oh my God. All right. Authoritative News Network has said that J Mac and Philip D. Bunn are launching biological warfare against me. That is probably true. Not in preparation for upcoming debate, mind you, but revenge for sleeping with their moms. All right, how's everybody doing? No, that's the wrong way to start. Asking 10 minutes of asking how's everybody doing so I can stall is probably not a good idea. All right, I got sick. If people cannot tell by the sound of my voice, I am sick. I'm very sick. I am less very sick than I was a little while ago, but I still feel pretty very sick. It's not great. It's not great. I can breathe now, which is the beautiful thing, right? I don't feel like I'm not going. I don't feel like I'm going to stop breathing anytime soon, which is how I felt yesterday. But this morning, all the phlegm that was sitting at the bottom of my lungs, it kept producing like this kind of this not this crack, this like bubbling sound, this gurgling sound at the tail end of each of my exhalations. Has finally mostly gone away, and so now I can actually kind of breathe. So that's my update for being sick. I was also away for my sister's wedding. Well, it's for my sister's wedding party, which is why which is why there wasn't a video this week, and also probably why I got sick. I think I started feeling a little bit sick in the airport on our way home. We were in Philadelphia airport and I got some food and I just noticed like this really weird, like normally when I drink coffee I'll get like a little bit of a hot flash. That totally makes sense. That's not out of the ordinary at all. But um it just, I don't know, it just felt a little persistent, and then I was really tired on the airplane anyways, so that's, yeah, also not out of the ordinary. It was really early in the morning when we had to wake up, so whatever. And then what am I thinking of? I'm part of the blanket brigade now. The Everybody, please pay attention to your mental health. You can instead give up on your physical health. Yeah, so I'm really tired. It's probably, I normally get a little bit of a hot flash when I drink a ton of coffee. It's probably fine. Blah 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 blah. And then 2 days later, I was like, oh, I'm coming down with something. Something's wrong. You just get that sinking feeling. So I'm pretty sure I got the coup. I'm pretty sure I got the coup because it's the only thing that's given me this kind of chest pain before and difficulty breathing. I had it either once or twice before. I think I've had it twice. And once at the very start of the pandemic, where I started looking up online, and they were like, "Hey, have you been smoking recently? Because that describes the symptoms that you're dealing with right now." I am running out of time to try, and I'm running out of time. I rarely get this opportunity because again, it's been like 3 years since this all started, and I've had COVID, I guess, 3 times. Trying a cigar while I'm sick with the coof. I'm running out of time. I'm still debating on it. I think it would be a lot of fun. Wick TV says, "Get better soon." During the sleep, he sent me a heart, which is delightful. Now I can ask how you guys are doing. Let's see. Perfect, perfect. So my plan for today is to do a couple of things. I have, like I said, I have like 10 minutes to catch up. That's not going to be too complicated at all. There's let's see here, which is pretty much what we just went through. There's some prep. Obviously, I'm playing a video game right now, and there's some prep that I want to do. The really important thing is that what? What? All right. Well, now you're not allowed back in. And I want to do some debate prep for. I really want to do some debate prep for this Thursday with TV. Okay, so this is now short by about 500 points, which means now I get to be a rank shithead. Start doing some really nasty shit. Okay. Yes. Yes. Very good. I can be horrible. It's exactly what I wanted. So that's what's been up with me recently. And I guess what I want to jump into now, while I kind of let my the Phineas says the topic is sandbox versus story gaming. Is there a specific debate proposition on the table? So I think it is. Thank you so much for that question because that helps me contextualize the rest of this. If people who ask me questions today, you're gonna help me a lot getting through this stream. So this is Nebulous Fleet Command, WIC TV. This is my favorite shipbuilding autism simulator. My girlfriend Texas Tomboy describes it as space chest, semi-affectionately, a space chest. I like it. Very fun game. So is there a specific debate proposition on the table? Yes, sort of. So it is sandbox versus narrative D&D. Yeah, there we go. Apparently a lot of point values got finished. During the sleep, he says he spent the last 3 weeks getting rained on, gonna hijack my buddy's lake lot and plant a bunch of corn. Yeah, that's a good idea, actually. It's a good year for bumper crops. There's no reason for me to have 10 decoys. What's the point value of this? Is it still... Value of that still 15? I think it is. Okay, that does make sense. Yeah. Okay, so sandbox. The topic is sandbox versus not story gaming, but narrative D&D. I think there's an important distinction here because I let me say at the groundwork. I have an article coming from Asher Creativity, which is currently down, sort of rebooting the website on Bluehost and on Squarespace. Or sorry, not on Squarespace. So Squarespace provides me with just absolutely nothing. $280 a year plus add-ons for functionally nothing whatsoever. Oh, now I know what that decoy is. That's not actually a decoy. That's well, I'm being silly here. I did something silly. Sirens doing it. Said they could be here. Save. Okay. I have an article coming on Asher Creativity, which I'm sort of preparing for this debate, and I'm using as a vehicle for preparation in this debate for basically the sandbox versus basically the sandbox play versus all the other styles of play. Because I think that there is sandbox. I think that there are grand campaigns. I think I've invented a distinction for them. I think that, say, fleet, and then we're going to return to lobby, and then we'll be good to go. I should put this on. Maybe that'll make the mood. Yes. Excellent. And then author branching narrative, and then all of the others. So I'm going to have to sort of divide these up because narrative D&D has no real founding proposition, has no real kind of goal, has no real like direct target direction. It's a container word for other people to run bad campaigns, and you can have other people run a good campaign or a satisfying campaign or a campaign that in which people have had fun, certainly in a more narratively oriented game. That's not really the question. The question is what distinguishes a specific style of play, like sandbox or like grand campaigns or like any of the things that I'm or classic adventure gaming, right? Versus something like story gaming. And are there any subdivisions within story gaming? I think yes. I think one of those, importantly, I think just having a space to steelman my opponents here and figure out where they. I don't think that they against my opponents. It's just they tend not to think about. Most of the people that I argue with in the tabletop RPG space do not think about these subjects at all. They just kind of repeat aphorisms over and over and over again. Most important thing is that everybody has fun. You know, don't do X, but don't do X too often, or do X, but don't forget Y is the format of all D&D advice, where you suggest some kind of principle that might be useful if taken to its logical conclusion, but then tell people, but and then immediately take it back a little bit, or you do the reverse. And that's how most bad advice starts. I think that was the second video on my channel. So I don't think that my it means nothing. Yeah, yeah. Fun is the most important. It just it means nothing. So context for the game here. These people, so I'm a container liner. I'm not supposed to be doing things like capping a point, but screw it. I guess that's what I'm doing today. Do not read, they do not play, they do not think. Nailing down exactly what narrativism means in terms of gameplay and DMing seems like the first obstacle. Yes, so if I can provide a framework which isn't quite narrativism, but like what a smarter person might think of narrativism as being, then I can kind of any of the more clever objections that we might come across, I can integrate into my framework, into my impressions or my um yeah, I can integrate into my impressions of the game. Oh wow, they did update the UI. I'm cool. This is pretty hot actually. I like this. I like this a lot, especially because everything is like placed where the all these components are representative of where everything is actually placed in the system. Like I have two separate drives. See all my container banks. I know which I know which launchers are down and where they're located. Ooh, that's pretty hot. So, for instance, we're talking in a lot of generalities. I think one example is authored branching narrative. This is not something that exists in the tabletop RPG space as a concept or design philosophy. It was pioneered, as far as I'm concerned, is pioneered by the good folks over at Inkle, which is a game. Inkle or Inky? No, Inky is the coding system and tool that they use. Inkle, run by Jonathan Ingold. They're sort of responsible for pioneering this absolutely delightful series of games which are not quite they're not open world games. They're very specifically, it's not that they're anti-open world games. Some of them are anti-open world games. One of their biggest series is the Sorcery series, based on a book series by Steve Jackson Games. And this series, it was like basically a choose your own adventure, right? And I think choose your own adventure games are author branching narrative in that no, you cannot go anywhere. You can't bridge literally every single gap in narrative or in location or something, but you know that every time you turn the page, you will have some number of options that you can take advantage of. You have some number of different options that you can choose. You often have a rewind mechanic, which is interesting. I'm not sure how you would do that in tabletop RPG, but I'll leave that to the side for the moment. And your choices have an impact later in the game, always, pretty much always, because everything has been because nothing is procedurally generated. Everything has been generated as a was MCon. Oh, interesting. Interesting. One of the favorite things of people to do in this game, especially recently, is they send sprinter fleets. Did not cat be. Whatever. Something that people like to do is they'll send sprinter fleets. Sprinters are these opposing the ANS faction has a ooh. All right, well let's see how this goes. I like to send sprinter fleets because they're ridiculously fast. Weapon the caps let them know that they're serious. No, it's fun. I gotta get out of the habit. I feel like it's just something that kids do nowadays, where they just like do something in all caps, or they ooh, my throttle is here. I remember that. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to try to overwhelm their point defense networks by just tossing a ton of rockets at them. We'll see if that actually works. Because they have plenty of soft kill. They have a lot of different radar tracks here. But they have radar chaff, which is a problem. I don't know how to set up my decoys. Oh boy. Okay. All right. Ooh, hoo, hoo. I dislike that a lot. Here, Canal de Bayo. Dude, this is a sick stream. That person's being sarcastic. So, Phineas says the nebulous associations I have with narrativism include an emphasis on roleplay, fidelity to dramatic aesthetics over the game mechanics or verisimilitude, railroading, primacy of character motivations. I don't think. I don't think that. Mm, crap. That sounds like it's fine. Well, that's why I'm getting warning messages for everything. It's because some of these are saying too close, and some of these are saying it's too. Yeah, it's gonna hurt. Okay, well, I chose this. Railroading often happens during narrative games, but I don't think it's intrinsic to the style. Yeah, so that's why I want to come up with this distinction, basically a fake distinction between author branching narrative. Yeah, between author branching narrative and anything, basically anything else. Because I think everything else basically doesn't really exist. I don't think that there's any other kind of like I don't think that there's any other kind of like valid consideration or valid narrative play style outside of sandboxes. And I say sandboxes because I think what is that? Wake? Oh, that tracks the wake of the ship. So that's not supposed to be on this side of the ship. Okay. So I think I actually need to send this like behind. A point crawl. I don't think that a point crawl might work. A point crawl might work. I don't know though. I'm aware that I'm running out of missiles. That's kind of the whole point of why I'm here, is I wanted to just dump everything. I know the tubes are almost empty. I know the tubes are almost empty. I'm trying to work here. I think that the difference is the topology of the play space. Yeah, I'm also kind of suspicious in that way. Okay, see that sort of. Uh, how about that one? I don't think that is the difference between the play space. I don't think it's the difference between really anything. I think it's just the understanding that when people play, I think actual players are like this. When you're in actual play, you have an expectation that your choices are going to matter, but everything is kind of being designed. There's not a premium on things being procedural because really what you want most, or what people ostensibly want most out of the game, is a consistent, just the consistent sense that everything that they're doing can be smoothed over and can be correct. So author branching narrative does that by putting a higher premium on the content that's been literally authored. The degree of autonomy versus affordance, maybe, maybe. The existence of a main story quest that the players are supposed to go on, yeah, yeah, that might be it. Like think of Fallout New Vegas. Nobody thinks of Fallout New Vegas as having a problem, right? Nobody minds Fallout New Vegas. Nobody thinks that there's something wrong with that game. Everybody has an understanding that like, okay, this is one of the best, has to be one of the best games in gaming. Period. See if this works. I don't know if it's gonna work. Oh no, it was too close. These things do not have enough maneuverability to follow, and it sucks. Oh, that's very unfortunate. I know I'm running low on missiles. That's okay. You just can't have something. You just can't have something this close, which is whatever. I would, in a sandbox, I would not expect there to be an Avengers level world ending threat that only the party can defeat, etc. Maybe not, maybe not only the party, but that they are the primary people invested in solving the problem. That I totally would believe. That feels correct to me. In a way that could be incorrect, right? It could be something. This could be goofy in some way that I haven't considered before. I get it. I understand. But I think narratives are like CGI in movies. People say they want no CGI, but what they actually like is invisible CGI. Yeah, okay, that seems like an interesting perspective. Like, I want to investigate that a little bit more. I definitely want to investigate that. Uh-oh. I no longer have those. I no longer have those. That's why I'm having a bigger problem right now. Well, here goes nothing. What would practical effects be in that analogy? I think that practical effects would be good question. Good question. I'm not sure. Oh, now I see. I'm nearly out of. So because I'm nearly out of missiles here, I pretty much don't. I'm not able to cap unless I manage to kill this guy. I can't cap a point unless I actually have some kind of practical effects equal procedures and rules. CGI equals fudging. People want CGI that's indistinguishable from practical effects and that fly under the radar. Yeah, like if you could make practical effects that were based on, yeah, if you make practical effects that that looked like, for instance, the thing, but did not clue me into the fact that they were CGI. If you can make CGI effects that looked like they were out of the thing, but didn't look like CGI, then I'd be, yeah. A perfect fudging is indistinguishable from luck. Yeah, there you go. So I think that the difference. See, now I should be able to kill this thing properly. Thank goodness. Why is this not behaving like I told it to? I don't know. I don't know. Do not get it. This useless person is now shooting me. Anyways, well, I think that's ancillary to main difference. Yeah, so I think author branching narrative, it's really interesting. Goes into Jonathan Ingold's sort of style of design. A lot of fun, cool, whatever. And now, see, it did it again. Oh, it just doesn't work this close. This close in range. That's so frustrating. Ah! And that thing doesn't have its main drives. This person says I've been sitting beside CL game? No, at E, right? It lies. Apparently, I have a bunch of monitors. Oops. If Crusader helped me at E point, I would have noticed. Oh well. We can see how this goes instead. I think we're gonna win anyways. At least at this point. Yeah, so Phineas also says that I was going to say that sandbox equals players forging their own story, narrativism equals players uncovering the DM story. But I think there are narrativist campaigns where the players drive the story. Yes, and that's what I think of as being author branching narrative, because the players are there are choices before them. They can't do whatever they want, but inherent in that promise is the idea that whatever they do choose is going to be their choice, right? It's not going to be a always going to the same place anyways or in the same way, whatever have you. It's not like they do actually have some choice in what it is that they're doing. They have some choice in the matter. They get to change the game. That's the expectation anyways. Whether it always follows up on that expectation, whatever. Who knows? Not super relevant. This could be a lifeboat. I don't know if I should start shooting at that because that could be a lifeboat. Yeah, that's evacuated. So that could be a lifeboat, but also it could be an enemy, and I can't take that chance. What's that beep? Where is it? Where's that beep? Somebody, please explain why I can't just shoot this guy. Can you fire a single rocket at this guy? Oh, apparently yes. Oh, they added warning signs. I like it. Season 1 of The Expanse. Basically, I keep hearing really good things about that show. I know it has Elias Tefexis, who I love because he was really awesome in Deus Ex. That was pretty good. What else am I thinking of? Now I have a bigger problem. I mean, like the lifeboats. I should rocket his lifeboats. Oh, oh, there's a Solomon coming. Yeah, that's gonna suck. I play established narrativism equals author branching narrative. Probably. So I don't know if I'm going to establish that, right? I can see myself if as I think on this, I can see myself establishing that author branching narrative is a kind of um, throughout the process of I might establish during the debate that what people talk about as the virtues of their favorite narrativist campaigns are really the virtues of author branching narrative. So I might bring it up as a rebuttal. I think what I have to start off with is arguing why sandboxes are qualitatively better. I say that because I don't think, period, and you can probably stop it there. I don't think you can just stop it with I don't think. But see, Oh, who is that? Warship frigate. Oh, hello. It's supposed to be here right now. Oh, was I just sitting outside E Point this entire time? That's pretty embarrassing. That feels not great. I was wondering why I wasn't capping. I thought it was just because I didn't have the proper. I thought it was literally just because I didn't have many missiles left. So no, I think that my debate strategy has to be starting off with the sandboxes themselves and explaining, actually, this stuff, like this stuff, just rocks. Period. It's just better. Explain specifically why I like grand campaigns because I think that sandboxes and I think that sandboxes can be inclusive of certain modes of play that grand campaigns are not. I think that the reverse is true. I think that there's certainly overlap between these two things, but I like increasing the amount of terminology that we have access to here. And I think that, for instance, something like something like Seven Willows, right? That zine that I made a little while ago, last year, did his update for the anniversary. Just a moment here, folks. Yeah. So, War. Oh, I didn't know I had access to that. Oh, these guys have so much cool stuff on them. I don't think that everybody needs to be going at the slow speed, though. I think that everybody needs to be going at. First of all, they need to be going at flank speed, turn battle short on for all of this. We're we got no time for sim components here. Hello, Harmony Ginger. He says what often happens in debates is that your opponent claims you have fundamentally misunderstood their position and haven't even addressed it. I mean, that's what we do in pedantic, but which debates, correct me if I'm wrong, which debates usually have a little bit more sophistication to them, I feel. Back cap, or who are we getting a rare Harmony heal? Ooh, heal Harmony. That is. I don't think that Harmony has it in her to do a heal. I don't think that Harmony could handle it. I take it you didn't see my Thursday debate. Yes, that's true. That's true. Well, no, I saw a few clips of Destiny. Let's see here. I saw a few clips of Destiny taking somebody on. Hello. Actually, there's somebody else out here who needs to be murdered a lot. Damn it. See, this isn't great, but I'm jammed, so there's like, I really have any other options. Let's try it out. Prove them wrong, Harmony. Yeah, it happened in the fudging debate. Yeah, no, it did happen in the fudging debate, but those were low quality people. Phineas says that there was this weird quantum superposition happening, where there were like three different pro fudging views. If you attacked any of them, the others would jump up and say, "I never said that." Well, yeah, that's because like they're weak minded and stupid. Like your options, if you're arguing in something like, let's say you're arguing in pedantic, or you're arguing in like the Scholark server while it still existed. Very rarely when you're arguing in my server. I try to stop this, but it does happen on occasion. You get into these situations where people get really, really angry. All right, here we go. It's not going to go. I'll rest the voice for Thursday, Rube. I'm gonna do no promises. It's probably just screwed. My voice is probably just done for. And anything else is extremely unlikely. I can hear an alarm going off, but it's still. Oh, that's probably it. Oh, I really don't like. That's not great. That's that's really bad, actually. Yeah, I'm gonna surrender. Oh, I did feel pretty good about frontline, whatever. I anticipate the pain points of the sandbox is better than discussion being one, better than what? Two, better for whom? Let me take a drink of that before I answer those. Uh, better than what? Is the sandbox what is the sandbox better than? Yeah, I'm not gonna go off on the tangent on how I can distinguish the sandbox versus grand campaigns. No, I'm so tempted to though. And I haven't taken Adderall today, so it's probably not going to so I probably won't be able to exercise it out of my mind before I can do this, so I have to. So I developed Seven Willows, which is a RPG that you can. It's a zine RPG. You can play it solo. You don't have to play it solo. I think it works better with additional people, but you can play it solo. And you are just given a map. You're given a vague objective, and some, which mostly takes the forms of additional goodies that you get for following this objective, and a vague, or not even a vague, just like a an end condition, a timer if you don't happen to succeed at this particular goal. But besides that, you are free to wander around the map and just do whatever. That's a sandbox. That is the I think the point of a sandbox, as opposed to if I were to dissect these container words that we've been using in opposition from one another, their spare parts, their component, individual component parts, and what they actually mean for different people, the different definitions that people are stuffing into these containers. I think one of those is a type of game or type of campaign where the point, literally, is to, at the expense of anything else, I don't say this in a negative way, but at the expense of anything else, be free to adventure whenever you sit at the table, whenever you sit down for the game. Which says, okay, good luck. See you in a couple of days. Thank you. So I think that's the point of a lot. And I think that's like, so Seven Willows fits under this definition. And I think that classic adventure gaming fits under this definition. I think that's one way that you can kind of distinguish it from maybe the Brosar style of play is the um, the CLN ambush was very annoying. The direct fire CLN. It's yeah, it's not supposed to. I like my I like my scuff builds. I really think that so a lot of these games are faction locked. OSP is kind of like the the outlying systems protectorate, right? It's the insurrection. They're the rebels. They're people repurposing old kind of. They're repurposing literally mass drivers for fracturing asteroids and container liners and just filling them with explosive material. And then you have ANS, which has like a proper military. watching and OSP giving up. So, and one of the problems is because of that, OSP I think really just gives up. Not they just give up map control consistently. They don't cap the naturals. They never do. They never cap the natural points, and they never defend their natural points. They just kind of they're always in. Most people are in this constant state of retreat. The idea, the no natural caps. Yeah, there you go. I give all my so what I do for most of my backline fleets is I actually give them like piranha rockets and stuff like that. I just give them these backline support fleets. I give up a little bit of optimized firing control and optimized like track correlation, basically radar tagging systems, and what this game uses for radar. I give up a little bit of those extra systems, so I have a backup when I inevitably get rushed by the enemy. Yeah, so how did I do as far as anti-ship warfare? That's funny. Careful Crusader, this person. It redacted. I don't know what happened there. What do I do? Ooh, 30k damage. Yeah, that was a pretty good game. During the sleep, he says, Boy, I can't wait to expand my vocabulary. Figure out what everyone thinks these phrases mean. Sorry, I had this muted. Atwood TV, what did he say about me? Nobody tell her. Nobody explain. Just let it sit there and marinate. Nobody, if anybody explains, I will ban you. I'll do it instantaneously. My Why would I do this? Because causing girls anxiety online is like one of my favorite pastimes. That's why I do so well with like a huge roster of female players. I just put like little subtle hints out there that something could be going wrong at any given moment, either on the social level or the rules level or in the level of the campaign. I just put a little thing. I mentioned something like, wait, is that plot hook? Like, is that quest hook like a thing that we need to be worried about? I'm like, it's fine. No, it's fine. BPD women are Pokemon. You gotta catch them all. That's so. That's a What a strange endorsement of me. That's all I have to say about that. So, back to Phineas's question, uh, we go to better than what is the sandbox? What is the sandbox better than, and better for whom? I think author branching narrative is better for almost nobody, unless you're playing the World of Darkness games, which isn't really almost nobody. That's actually quite a lot of people. It works actually. So author branching narrative probably works really well for the storyteller systems, and the storyteller systems have a lot of resources to run those kinds of games. Like you can't simulate an entire city inside of your head effectively all at once. So there's going to be some limitations on like what you can cover in the span of a given session or the span of a given adventure. If we're going to blanket mode here, I can feel better. Yeah, excellent. Good. My alternative was just grabbing my cat and putting him under my Alternative is just grabbing my cat and putting him under my neck here, but I have a blanket, so I don't need to torment him. So and so I think author branching narrative works a little bit better in those systems, often because the characters you're playing have like these really intense and specified restrictions. Like vampires can't go out into sunlight, and there's all these rules about what they can do because there's so many higher level characters, higher level players, basically, or NPCs that are implied within the setting that can ruin you or can really mess you up if you start going outside the bounds of play, right? If you start no clip, basically, has a bunch of set. Author branching narrative has a bunch of like set tracks that you can go along, and you can make choices that. Thanks, guys. That's so now I'm going back in the stream. Uh, awesome. Don't make me laugh. It hurts. So, there's all these different tracks, and they're implied to connect. But if you start going outside the tracks, then you're going to have much problems. And that's to be expected. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that it still kind of matches up with the implied conceits of D&D, the implied conceits of tabletop RPGs, which is important. I think it's important because people want to be able to have like there's all these things that are supposed to be really cool and really fun and really enjoyable about tabletop RPGs, and they want the conceits of the medium, as I was explaining to somebody recently, and the Ransack server actually. There we go. We're just gonna fire some early missiles. Harrison, give goodness. Harrison, give fire a warning shot. Probably didn't mean an M40 through the window, but they're supposed to be able to go through all these different tracks. And the advantage of the storyteller there is that they're able to uh, in author branching narrative in a video game, you're going to have all these different bugs because there's all these different states that you're supposed to be tracking in a given one moment. And oftentimes there's going to be these different collisions or these different. Basically, the more logic you have in a video game, the more opportunities you have for bugs. It's just how it works. So, but in a tabletop RPG, it's a lot easier to smooth over those bugs in the moment, right? And you're sort of you're usually not generating the content automatically. That's sort of not the point when it comes to tabletop RPGs, or specifically not just tabletop RPGs, but when it comes to yeah, there's something big over there. There's a big old blob. If we book good cop, bad cop, Rube will be the bad cop. Yeah, that's what I expected. I don't think that anybody was expecting something different. Yeah, so when it comes to grand campaigns and sandbox play, let's just use sandbox in like the kind of colloquial term, uh, including make it the inclusive container word of sandbox, where it's both just fantasy adventure gaming for the point of adventure gaming. It's for classic adventure game and grand campaigns where the point is to sort of scale up, right? Grand campaigns are not neutral as to the goals of the characters, just like author branching narrative are. You're supposed author branching narrative. You want to scale down. You want to learn more about your character. Rank campaigns are intended to scale up. So ABNs and sandboxes allow player choice with constraint. Why are sandboxes better? They still have constraints, can't go outside prep, etc. No, so I think that because I don't think that sandboxes really require you to prep. Again, I think that the whole point of it is again, I think the whole point of sandboxes is just whatever lets us adventure tonight is what we're focusing on. We're here at the table. The session has started. Yes, there are rules and procedures for XYZ. If they're going to keep us from playing tonight, then we're not going to adhere to them. Let's see here. Harmony Ginger says, I don't roll for prep for my sandbox unless I know what they're doing. I roll things randomly. That's how a lot of people take care of it. I have recently author branching narratives allow for improv too. Well, that's the thing is the improv of author branching narrative comes in. This is another distinction. The author branching narrative improv comes from what would be a bug in the video game, where you come out and you say, "Oh shoot, this I'm this I expected this NPC to be here, right? I thought they'd be chilling out here, but they're not. They're not. It sucks, but they're not here. So I can't do anything about that, right? I was supposed to have an NPC here. They're not here, so now I have this gap in my knowledge of the situation. What do I do about that? I don't know. In an author branching narrative, that's where the storyteller sort of comes to life, is because now you have a bug in the logic of your author branching narrative, and they are there to basically smooth that back over, right? Turning that bug into a track, whereas in something like an Inkle game, if you have a bug there, it's like, oh, I have an NPC here. Now it's telling me that I can talk to this person who's not actually here right now. Or another example that's one of John Ingold's favorite. So there's been like this monastery unearthed, and there's an archaeologist standing next to it, and but the archaeologist their knowledge state about their knowledge state about like the thing being unearthed has not fully activated or hasn't been updated. So they're like, I think this tomb is buried underground. That's an example of an author branching narrative bug. And you can imagine that in a D&D game, like, oh, this thing updated too early. The players got to the forgotten tomb too early. So what happens now? Well, in an author branching narrative, you're still able to say, okay, we even in an author branching narrative, we're able to uh, you're able to basically just smooth that over so that, for instance, your NPC does not pretend to not recognize this monastery has been unearthed right next to them. See you later, Harmony. So author branching narratives make strong assumptions about what the players will do, yet sandboxes do not. I think I don't think so. I think that sandboxes do make strong assumptions. I think that sandboxes make assumptions about what the players will do according to their primarily. No, I feel like I should take that thought back, but I should finish it out loud so that I'm not just kind of trying to patch it inside my head. So I think that sandboxes do assume that the players are going to, for instance, adhere to the conceits of the game, right? So you need gold in order to level up in AD&D. So the players are probably going to do things that get them more gold. Now, is that particularly insightful, or have I discovered something amazing here? I don't think so. I think that's probably true of most games. You're going to do things that acquire Pathos and Wraith the Oblivion. You're going to do things that get you some extra vitae in Vampire the Masquerade. This is not like this is not new or special or unique. There we go. I think I timed this correctly. Strong here meaning that ABNs break when players do something unexpected, causing the NPC to be gone when the DM thought they'd be there, for example. Well, that's when they break in a video game. But the point of a DM in that kind of storyteller system and that author branching narrative is basically to patch over those bugs and improvise a reason for their presence. Which you might still define as them breaking. Sandboxes make assumptions about what kinds of things players will do, but not about what they will actually choose to do. Seek gold, yes. Go specifically to the dungeon on Hex A12345. No. Yes, okay, so I agree with that statement, and that's why I was kind of like patching it in my head at the same time. Is I was like, okay, yeah, sure, they're gonna do things that are the players are going to do things that are critical and important to playing the game, but you know, is that is that really a groundbreaking? Is that like a groundbreaking assumption in tabletop RPGs? That's probably just something that players do in any style of game, and yeah, it's something that they do in any style of game. If you have like a template for D&D that's author branching narrative, and a campaign template that's a sandbox, and a campaign template that's you know that's grand campaigns, that's the players are going to do things to try and get gold and get magic items in all three of those. And in any other variant or bucket you could possibly imagine. So it's not clever on my part to come up with that distinction. But I do think that players are going to like I explained this in my one-to-one time video. I think because I don't want to give up the prep side of things. I actually kind of wish that Harmony was still here. I should have gotten to this point earlier. I would have if I was not sick. Everybody watching this in post is like, yeah, right. Rube never rambles for excessively long times, especially while he's playing video games and leaving half-baked thoughts. No, I never do that. I think that the types of prep that sandboxes don't necessarily require but encourage are more archetypal than they are specific. And that might be my special distinction here, is that the sandbox play, I'm really nervous because I thought I saw like radar signatures, specifically jammer signatures on the bottom here. I know that there are people with jammers, but last I saw they were over this way. I don't know if that's changed recently. And it makes me kind of nervous. Oh, now I'm on radar. Radar. There it is again. There it is again. I'm not insane. I'm not insane. It's over there. I saw it. I'm just gonna send two rocket containers over that way. Make sure. Oh, make me nervous. Okay, so sandboxes make assumptions. No, ABNs require DMs to run around patching bugs that will inevitably occur because players will color outside the lines, causing downstream effects. Is that a fair characterization? Yeah, I think so. I think so. And it's still a game because you were still making choices. You're choosing certain activities over others. And that helps distinguish it, I think, from classic story gaming, where people, for instance, fudge dice results in order to get the specific result that the DM wanted or the DM demanded. I don't like that this person named this missile active decoy. Because I'm betting that's not an active decoy. I'm betting it's just a missile. I guess there's nothing under there. Maybe I was being insane. Look at the little engagement failed notification soon. Ew. I want to help these guys out. I think they're doing some cool stuff right now, but I um I don't know what they're attempting. I think it really difficult to choose a position, especially because this is one of the slower ships in the game. Sorry, let me rephrase that. This is one of the slowest ships in the game. So, Phineas, I do think that you've given me a pretty good distinction there where okay, author branching narratives are about players are going to color outside the lines. They're not going to be stopped from coloring outside the lines. That distinguishes it from classic kind of fudge gaming. People are doing things to yeah, where people are doing things to kind of prevent hurt feelings, or they're trying to avoid their buddies getting really upset, or saying that that's what they're doing to justify the fact that they're fudging, which is way more common. Like people, we know people. You and I, Phineas, know people who like. Wait, no, why am I vague posting about this? Party does this. I love Party, but he does this all the fucking time. Where he says, "Oh, we're past the half hour mark. I can curse now." Where he says things like, "Oh, well, sometimes you gotta make sure that these people don't get too upset, and sometimes making sure that somebody's character doesn't die is the difference between having a table at the end of the day." It's like, how many references do you make to beating people with a hammer, beating people to death with a hammer on a daily basis here? Oh, interesting. I'm surprised that none of those tagged. So that guy up there is having a pretty bad time, but I think that we could salvage this. I think if we gang up in with missiles and containers on this thing, we can penetrate. And I don't know how good its PD net is, anyways. But like that single keystone that he has up top is not gonna survive right now. Sounds like he gave up. That kind of sucks. Devil's advocate: sandboxes require DMs to deal with players going to new places as well. All DMs must think on their feet, whether they use their imagination or roll on tables. So author branching narratives are on par. No, because author branching, if you're doing like LA by night, if you're playing GTA, you don't get the option of like going to Chicago, playing GTA 5 or whatever. Maybe there's been a GTA in Chicago. I don't actually know. I don't think GTA 5. I'm pretty sure GTA 5 was not in. I'm pretty sure GTA 5 was not in Chicago. So I'd be confidently correct here. Somebody needs to know what they're doing. Or is this guy? 8K, he's out of rocket range. So ABNs have more invisible walls and railroads and sandboxes, even if you could color outside the lines within the bounds of the game. Yes. So sandboxes have a page, whereas author branching narrative has the line art. You could color outside that line art. Sandboxes have the page. And more importantly, maybe, sandboxes have, oh, that's why I'm still visible. That's why I'm on radar right now. It's because I am in view of whoever might be sitting at C point right now. And I can guess a few people that might be C point. Actually, you know what? I bet I know a way to find out. Let's see if he pops flares. Oh, there you are. Oh, it's not going to help you, bud. Oh, I pull back. All right, but he is still using. Is he within range of that yet? No, he isn't. But he's pulling back, so I probably can. So I can still probably get him. Problem is, he's definitely going to hit me with. Where is he? Oh, I'm being jammed again. Oh, that's not good. He's on. He's on the right side there. Gonna bust out the R12s. I know he's over there. All right, that's where the second fleet is because they just popped chaff. That's the beautiful thing about rockets is they will. People's automatic point defense systems will always proc the proc chaff. But chaff, wake chaff and radar chaff don't actually help you against rockets because rockets are just, it's what is it? It's Fox One. It's not actually guided. But the PD, your PD systems always activate them. I'm gonna stop here because I know he's waiting for me. Now, these are a little bit trickier because these are rocket containers. They activate on a. They do. What they do is they find a radar signal, then upon activating that radar signal, they pop there. All right, so they just found one there, and we got pretty good hits. Would you say that Sandbox handles improv better than author branching narratives, since there are tables for dungeons, encounters, etc., whereas for ABNs, you just have to rely on your imagination and gameplay sensibility? I think that. So, I'm gonna be careful about this because my natural inclination is to say probably one of the points that I want to make if I'm bringing up author branching narrative is the fact I really need to write this specifically. I need to write this down specifically. Is that actually we can make this? I'll just write the note down for the moment. In my little art file later. There used to be a thing where you could do remarkable on. Here we go. A little thing where you could like connect remarkable and its application to like just directly to Windows, and you can still do that, but not in a way that OBS can see right now. Frustrating. So if I bring up author branching narratives, I think one of the things that I want to focus on is the fact that like author branching narratives are really, really difficult, near impossible, near impossible without either improv or a theater background. Because people with an improv or theater background have been trained in what's basically a game unto itself. The structure of improv, the structure of yes anding, and everything else that you could find in a theater, say, system matches the loops, cognitive loops that we associate with games. The more experience with it, they understand. Um, Hopefully, those guys can just kill off the others. I'm gonna have to die quickly after I get around this mountain here. But yeah, author branching narratives, unless you have a system that is built for it and has tools for it, like for instance, the presence of pathos versus whatever it is that pathos and psyche, I think it is. Yeah, so if you have like psyche dropping in Wraith the Oblivion, and that's something that causes your shadow to start taking over. That's something that is a resource, a game procedure resource in Wraith the Oblivion that allows you to take advantage of that allows you to take advantage of author branching narrative. Most games really don't have this. Storyteller games kind of have it in a way, but often they're not. This is not a style of design that's been pioneered in tabletop RPGs. So when you get a game that's built for it, it's incidental. It's incidentally compatible. It's not actually really built for it. It's not properly designed with this in mind. So basically, the only people who are doing it, and doing it well, mind you, are people like the Dimension 20 team, the Critical Role team. I 100% believe that everything that's happening in a Critical Role game is something that can happen in a D&D game. And I'm not surprised by any of it. I'm never thinking, "Oh man, why is any of this happening?" I'm never thinking like, "Oh, like this isn't something that makes sense for a D&D game." I'm always pleasantly surprised and in favor of the amount of detail or attention to detail and care that's put into all the different, I almost said scenes, but all the sessions. I do think that there's a game going on there. I think it's just a game that people cannot replicate. What is that, a Solomon? That's a Solomon. These guys have an insane point defense net, which I'm gonna have to try to penetrate by sending these rockets around and praying a lot. These ones I could send around this way. All right, here we go. I gotta try to follow the Solomon so I could fire a wake-seeking missile tube directly into its wake, directly into the back of its engines. But I don't think they're actually facing towards me right now, which is going to be an even bigger problem. I need I really need my rockets to like fire as soon as possible, or else I'm gonna have some big problems. if those rockets don't fire, then I'm just basically dead. And often they don't fire because it's confused about where it's supposed to be firing. Tell me those just went straight around. Oh, that's pretty embarrassing, actually. Where's my CIC? Do I still have that active? Can I repair that? I can. That's pretty good. So would I say that sandboxes handle improv better than AVNs? No, I don't think so. I think that now. What I was hoping is that my last ditch effort is for this is I have a jury rigged reactor that sits in the middle, so it's really good for you know getting smacked. I mean, you could have pushed the keystone with Rex earlier. Here, tables for dungeons, encounters, ABNs. You just have to rely on your imagination and gameplay sensibility. So, give me a moment. I need I need to drink a few things. We're gonna take a short break. We are back. We are cozy. Um, yeah, I'm not quite done coughing. I'm not coughing as much as I doubt I'm gonna be coughing as much. Wait, why did that just turn on? Oh, that's not good. Has I been doing that the entire time? Just not it's not showing the game. I don't think that's possible that it's not been showing the game the entire time because you guys were commenting on the game. It's been showing the game the entire time. Okay, cool, cool. Good. Because otherwise I was gonna ban all of you. I was like, no, I'm done. I'm done. Actually, I don't want any viewers. I like waking up to no text. Okay, so Scooter for Mike says Scooter for Mike has says that it was a color screen. Yes, it was a color screen for that's my waiting screen is what that exists for. Okay, so he says what are the three biggest advantages of sandboxes over ABNs? I'm going to focus at this point on grand campaigns over author branching narrative. Just to catch everybody up at this point, author branching narrative is not story gaming necessarily. Author branching narrative is where you take specific a list of specific tracks of specific intersecting bucketed tracks, intersecting tracks in different buckets of gameplay. A list of specific intersecting tracks in different buckets of gameplay that can, in which choices between prior tracks influence future tracks. Basically, D&D or World of Darkness or whatever have you as a state machine rather than yeah, D&D or World of Darkness as a state machine rather than an open world or anything else for that matter. Rather than an open world, rather than fudging so the narrative only goes where you want it to, so that the dice and the player choices have no consequence. So that's our author branching narratives. Then we have sandboxes. Sandboxes container word, where the point is to just be able to adventure at any given moment. The point is to be able to get to just adventure whenever you feel like it. I still don't know what the yum up is. At this point, I'm too afraid to ask. So, no yum nub is some kind of like gameplay strat. Okay, everybody has decided that I am in fact going to die to the cube. Or my debate, actually. Okay, so sandboxes are basically the kind of game where you're supposed say the word is where you're going to be able to adventure every time you sit down for play. The point of a sandbox is that there are no is that procedural elements serve procedural procedural elements serve the gameplay. What would you say? Serve adventure freedom in session, but they don't actually restrict it. The whole point of the sandbox is you're supposed to be able to every time you sit down at the table, you're supposed to be able to adventure. And so the procedures for generating new cities or new monsters or new dungeons exist to make sure that you can adventure, but they're never going to be used in a way, or they're not supposed to be, ideally they're not used in a way that stops you from adventuring. So people, that's the kind of sandbox where people are in an open world. They're not doing story gaming. They're not doing an explicit narrative, but they're not, for instance, maybe adhering to one time, or maybe they're not using training time or leveling costs. And ABNs are forced to go down one of the author's foreordained paths, plus or minus some friction or bugs. Well, you're going down one of the tracks, but they're not really consistent tracks. They're just scenarios that have been rolled up in it, the scenarios that have been created in advance, as if somebody had like rolled up the entirety of a D&D campaign in advance and then started drawing a bunch of different lines or connections to these different encounters one by one, and then started removing the extraneous stuff that didn't have some kind of impact or interest or something that the author could choose to influence or expand upon. So stuff like you don't have like an encounter with four random skeletons unless that encounter with four random skeletons is four. Hockey for face target. I think it's just the hold heading is just H. Interesting. So sandbox, you're just doing that stuff. Oh, shift H. Interesting. I forgot about that. Yeah. Then we have brain campaigns where specifically the players are given freedom to the extent that the campaign world builds upwards. Am I done being sick yet? Absolutely not. Skogie, I saw you on Twitter earlier. I had to mute you because it came back to a bunch of gamer words. I haven't seen this person before, but I just got a ton of gamer words in my Twitter feed, and I think that's usually followed by a bunch of OnlyFans bots hitting me up. Also, you committed the gravest sin of just of responding to Zani Silverhand back and forth in my comments over and over and over again. That guy's fed. He's everybody needs Block Zani. Block Zani. He is a character. Okay, so we have our author branching narrative, a list of specific intersecting tracks in a different, in different buckets where prior actions impact future actions. It's a state machine, but in D&D. Sandboxes are where you serve, you have procedures, but they're designed to serve adventure freedom, and the whole point is making sure that you can actually play on a regular basis. And there's procedures aren't really looked to. See. see what they do. Then you have grand campaigns where the objective is to build the campaign upwards, and so procedures serve this goal, which often does intersect with letting people adventure wherever, but occasionally the procedures do prevent people from adventuring, like for instance under time jail. Sorry, you cannot use this character tonight because they are on the other side of the map, and then they can't. What else can they do? Let's see what happens. So those are the three big types of gameplay, and then you have like everything else. You have non-gaming like story gaming, where people are or railroading, where people are just taking where all roads really lead to one track, and there's no consistent kind of again. Okay. So yeah, you have non-games like story games, railroading, where people are just kind of like everything gets smoothed over into the DM's one singular objective. Finnegan says it's important to connect the nouns, a adventure, author branching narrative, sandbox, grand campaign with the attributes. Like author branching narratives are bad because they constrain the player's freedom to adventure. I don't think that author branching narratives are bad. I think that they do still match up with. I think that they are one. I do think that they are one correct way of playing RPGs. However, I would never say that. I would never like admit that to somebody, or I might have to on Thursday, but I can't think of a reason why I would do this right now. Maybe somebody will hit me with it. Because people, I can distinguish it from story gaming, from railroading. These other people cannot. So I didn't give an inch, take a no, no. It's really not that. I say that because I think these people are just. I think the types of people who run story games where everything goes where they fudge because they think they found a cool narrative and they think that they're the first persons who have imagined a cool narrative in their heads aren't doing anything even close, but it's going to be so annoying to get into the weeds on author branching narrative versus story games, except when I'm describing specific qualities of author branching narrative that story games do not have. So I would be encouraged, but I wouldn't rely on the idea that somebody who hears me talk about author branching narrative would internally recognize that this is something different from my campaign. Like fudging does not fit in with this paradigm. Constraining player actions, yes, but not in the way that I do it. This person is thinking. They're thinking like, well, I constrain player actions by not letting my players kill the bad guy when they try. But author branching narrative is just like, okay, you can't go to the other side of the planet when there's when we're when we're not playing on the other side of the planet right now. There's no way to really get there. See here, if you're going to argue that sandboxes are better than author branching narratives, then you'd have to argue that it possesses desirable attributes that ABNs lack, or lack an undesirable attribute that ABNs have. So ABNs are a kind of steelman of some of the stupid things that story games are doing. Again, I don't think that they're really related because one of them is basically video gaming. right? What if you plugged D&D into a state machine? And then the other, that's author branching narrative. And outside of author branching narrative, you have just like, well, I fudged the dice because I think it'll be more dramatic. If this bad guy dies if he dies in 4 rounds as opposed to five, 4 rounds as opposed to two. Whole thing about like, well, encounter design isn't finished once it reaches the table. Right. That's separate from author branching narrative, which is literally just, okay, I'm going to pay attention to what the players are doing, but only I'm defining in advance. Author branching narrative is where the DM defines in advance sort of what they're paying attention to, and writing out their scope so that they can write out some interactions and what they're going to zero in on. But if the players decide to go to like the other side of the world, then they're either going to reuse content that they had planned for whatever, or they're going to say no, or they're going to say, "Hey, let's take a break for a week so I could get some stuff ready for this." And I think I do think that that's bad and inferior compared to grand campaigns. On top of the fact that people are already going to do these things poorly anyways. Right? People are already messing up what they think are author branching narrative campaigns. Wow, that took a lot. Heavy cruiser. That's probably based on its speed. That's probably an expert. Then they based a video a while back on covering an actual purpose-built RPG with rules to support it. A game for making stories specifically. Weird stuff, but it was neat. Yeah, that's kind of what people are thinking of when they. Um, that's what people when people talk about their story games, that's what they want you to think that they're doing. They're like, move out of this area because it's probably going to. Oh, here it is. Let's see what happens. He deployed his decoy way earlier, so that didn't work. Thanks for. Sure, you even killed my interest in tabletop games years ago before I even really cut my teeth on this genre. God bless his approach to rekindling my interest. I'm glad to hear that. So, author branching narratives sandbox grand campaign is a spectrum of constraints on player choices, and author branching narratives are inferior to grand campaigns. I think, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, there's a Venn diagram of what part of that is just my personal taste, and I think author branching narratives are interesting, but probably, I probably think that author branching narratives are interesting because they're novel. Right. I do think that grand campaigns where the objective is to just scale up, I think is objectively just superior. But I think that a good author branching narrative game is going to make that distinction tougher to recognize. But again, we don't have that distinction because this is something that was pioneered in video games, not in tabletop RPGs. Oh, I got a problem. Oh, I got a big old problem. I had to turn off. Crap, 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 crap. I don't want to be stuck there right now. Put a firing hold on this. I don't know if I could actually catch up to him here. Oh, and then I actually have an even bigger problem. Goes back to the only thing that tabletop actually does better than video games, which is large, expansive, emergent adventures. Author branching narratives don't leverage that. Typically, that is the case. I think that sorry, that is not sorry. That is the case, right? Again, somebody could fix that in tabletop RPGs. I think that you could get to a range where people did author branching narrative in a way that was like, and that felt authentic, that felt legitimate in the context of tabletop. Okay, so there's a beam Solomon there that I have absolutely no chance of fighting whatsoever. This is not great. All tabletop games, including some story games, have some advantages over ABNs. Going to be able to click on anything, say anything, etc. I disagree. So I think that author branching narratives are, again, in this context of tabletop games, that's what the GM's purpose is, basically, is to go around and to do cool, funny stuff. That's I need to remove that weapons hold, but I imagine that I'm going to be using it soon. Oh, hello. I don't want you to be anywhere near me, actually. What do you mean too close? Yes. Absolute nonsense. I really need to increase the fuel on these things. This is not going to go well for me. I see it's already taking out some of my rocket containers. Creative video games, the obvious strength is click on anything. Different types of tabletop do that better, which is why I agree on the Brosar superiority idea. Yeah, I think, again, mostly, I'm in agreement there. Start messing up. So I lost two. I lost a lot of things, actually. That's not great. Let's see if that does anything. Because first of all, that was a lot of rockets. And hopefully I might actually be able to get him to just, like, leave me alone. Oh, that was a well-placed decoy. Cozy murder mysteries is the type of thing that would, that weird story writing game, Lindy Page talked about would be good. They say they love it, but friendships are on the line. Yeah. Cool. So I tend to think of in terms of player profiles, what kind of players is for. Yeah, sandboxes are for players who want a world full of different adventures, control their destinies, etc. I disagree there. I think that grand campaigns. It's not that I disagree. This is how I word this. This is how I stake out the position. Is grand campaigns are for people who want to play RPGs. That's the key. That's the flag planting moment. Is that grand campaigns are for people who want to play RPGs. I think that there are a bunch of ancillary, uh, supplementary people around the space who can help shore up empty seats at your table and empty roles in the party, like people who get snacks and the folks who write session reports. Not that those people can't also like RPGs, but the whole point of it is there's a kind of person who likes RPGs and is focused on RPGs. They're there for the RPG experience. I think that grand campaigns are for that kind of person. They are the person that grand campaigns own people who like RPGs. Let's see here. Claiming the label RPG is probably going to be contentious since people stuff like railroaded Dragonlance modules. Yeah, which is why I'm going to. That's why I'm going to take that hill. I don't know why people talk about dying on hills. Very, very feminine. Station capture. That does look fun. Just not compatible with the scenario. Oh well. Too bad. So yeah, I'm gonna say people who like to play RPGs. Because outside of that, you have people like I don't know, like this is the debate when it comes to domain play, is that yeah, not everybody wants to have a castle, not everybody wants to manage a business or a stronghold, and that's totally fine, but that has no impact on whether or not you should include something like strongholds or businesses or domain play in your game. Because any more than people who don't like the idea that some people don't like magic users, so they don't like playing magic users, so they don't. Ew, I'm getting out of this. Some people don't like playing magic users, so you would get rid of them, or you wouldn't care about having magic users in your game because some people don't like them. It's like that's just stupid. It's like a think about druids in fifth edition. Not everybody. I think it's only 2% of people at fifth edition tables play the druid. I think it's like one of the lowest played classes. Might be the lowest played class. And out of 12, now 13, that's really substantial. Only 2% of people are playing this class, but if you got rid of the druid in 5th edition, your tables would complain. And the reason that they would complain is because not everybody wants to play with a druid. No, not everybody wants to play a druid and be responsible for managing this weird part-time nature wizard that also happens to be this polymorph specialist, right? But they love having that person in the party. Domain play. The person, your buddy who has a castle, generates new adventure. Not only does he generate new adventure fodder for the rest of the table, but specifically, he makes new adventures that the rest of the party can be invested in. Because if I have to, if me, the DM, if I put something in front of my players in Children's Valley, maybe they bite, maybe they don't, whatever. But the fact that like one of my players was for 3 months trying to take over the Green Griffin Inn, the Green Iffin Inn in Esheros, the city that they were adventuring in, while they were trying to take down an Assassin's Guild at the same time, meant that the player Frogatha, I'm using internet names, uh, meant that the other people at the table could invest themselves in that adventure because they were invested in that player at the table. And so their investment in the player, it was also just a cool bit of adventuring. But they were able to stack their investment in this other person on top of their investment in the adventure in a way that made them, more motivated to finish. Here. It's a separate issue than who is this for, I mean. You can fully describe the kinds of desires and play patterns that a grand campaign fills without ever mentioning RPG. I think good marketing is domain play and faction play are widely ignored by modern tabletop RPG players, not because they've been tried and found wanting, but because they haven't even been attempted. I don't like that. I actually dislike that rhetoric. I prefer staking the claim on people who like RPGs. And the reason I want to do that is because this actually is not an unknown quantity in terms of play. It's not. We've tried tabletop gaming. We've tried it with domain play. People have been doing it with domain play now for a while. Strongholds and Followers from MCDM, my favorite, came out something like 8 years ago now. It feels like it's been a really long. It probably hasn't been that long, but maybe it feels like it's been a really long time. That was awesome. I love using Strongholds and Followers. People love using Strongholds and Followers. The people like the follow up Kingdoms and Warfare, and they made a lot of money. Those were like the big Strongholds and Followers was for a while the highest grossing Kickstarter in tabletop RPGs. People do want this stuff, so it's no longer an unknown. So I would not stake my claim on the idea that it just hasn't been tried enough. Right, real true domain play hasn't been tried. Is I feel like the easy rebuttal. These people have not tried domain play. They have cut their players off from it, but real domain play has never been tried. Is the easy rebuttal to that wording, to that rhetoric. So that's why I would avoid it. Not having domain play is just cutting off the genre's nose to spite its face. That's a natural extension of players acquiring gold, influence, and manpower. It's organic to include. See here. So if I stake it out on the actual genre, like here's the thing: I know that it's risky, but at the same time, story gamers, have you ever tried including domain play or faction play? This is another thing that makes me nervous because I. It's not that these people can't be better than the typical Broasar detractors. I'm expecting that they will be better than the typical Broasar detractors, right? You can't have a conversation with Owen because about like using randomized monsters because he's just going to call you say that like you worship AD&D as a bible. You can't have a conversation with that person. British people. But the issue here is that I'm also, so while I hope that my debate opponents on like our debate opponents, myself and Harmonies, are better than the typical detractors, I'm still not going to take down and loosen up any defenses, or lower my defenses on things that I typically fight with detractors about. Yes. Okay, Phidias, I 100% agree. People championing fudging and story gaming have never set up factions or domains. However, however, they have seen that stuff in play, for instance, in Critical Role. Again, campaign one of Critical Role, there are dragons. There is an alliance of dragons that fights with the kingdom that the players call home and destroys their home city and destroys a portion of their stronghold outside that city. There are they a lot of their quests have to do with a domain play. What am I thinking? If I'm using the term arcs, right? I don't have a better term for it right now. Just go with me. The campaign arcs to start off with. You have the Black Ravens. Is it the Black Ravens? Whatever the vampire thing is, and whatever the Beholder quest was. First session that was streamed. Yeah, they had castles and kingdoms. First sessions that were streamed were about going to this dwarven citadel, delving further beneath because there was a beholder threatening the citadel and like inventing these new monstrosities and sending them up. So the players had to go down and kill this beholder, and along the way they meet some like rogue. They meet a rogue mind flayer who then at the end of it becomes a not rogue mind flayer. They get some Briarwoods. Briarwoods, thank you. I thought it was Briar, but I couldn't think of it. So you have the Briarwoods, which is uh Percival von Rollo something the third, whatever it was. That's like his ancestral home, and he's going to kill the vampires. And when he kills those vampires, he gets the castle. He gets his ancestral home back, and he gets a this city, this region is now loyal to him. Yeah, Percy reclaimed the family's domain. And then you have the stuff from the Chroma Conclave that I mentioned earlier. And all of this is to demonstrate that while these people probably haven't engaged in any significant faction or domain play in their story games, gosh, it would be really easy for them to lie about it. And so just asking or even asserting outright that they hadn't done this before would be easy to rebut because they could just lie about it. Because they could like because they've seen it in play beforehand. They could be dishonest. It's something for them to be really easy to be dishonest about. Taking out the grand campaign is the genre is also just a good play in the form of a big ask. Yeah, or anchoring bias is what I was thinking of. Where like the person who makes an offer first sets the tone for the rest of the negotiation, right? So I don't start off with like if I'm giving somebody advice about like, all right, you're in an abusive relationship. How should I? I know that they're not going to go with like whatever the first thing that I say. So um, I start off with you should cheat on your girlfriend. And they say, "No, I'm not going to do that." But now I can talk them down to, you should take a break. That's you're having an issue at your table where you say, what's going on with your players? You should kill your players, not their characters. You should kill your players. Like, I don't want to do that. That seems a little unreasonable. Okay, but what about if you were to stop playing with them? All right, well, I already said I'm not going to kill them. I want to say yes at some point. So yeah, so I think that's why I would say, but I definitely have to supplement it. Here's the thing, Phineas, is I have to supplement that with some kind of proofs that are really difficult to disagree with. I don't want to put the ball in their corner, but my only alternative to putting the ball in their corner is to come up with some proofs for why sandboxes. I think sandboxes less so. I think that grand campaigns are better than sandboxes to stake the claim on. I might not use that language, right? I might not make that distinction inside of the debate. This is in my head. And so I'm keeping these in my head so that anytime somebody makes an objection, that I can filter it into one of these buckets, right? The author branching narrative, sandboxes, grand campaigns, everything, and then non-gaming is over here. No games is over here. So if they're dealing with, so that in my head I can come up with the best way to, I can keep them from hitching their bad play onto valid forms of play. That's the idea. Yeah, I think it makes the most sense to set out the components of a grand campaign explicitly, like factions and hexes and procedures, and then explain why these components are important. Yes. So if I want to keep the ball in my court, I have to open myself up to attack on these specific points. Grand campaigns. We're gonna switch over here. I better keep this up. I'm gonna switch over to monitor. I think it's monitor 2 here. Play capture 2? No, monitor 2. Okay. If you're wondering about that piece of crap on the table there, Full Sail. I'm going to college. I'm going to Full Sail University, taking classes online. And they have this delightful humiliation ritual where you sign up for 3D art and they say, hey, but first, we want to test your drawing skills. Because what they want to do is they want to take people who can draw and then teach them how to turn it into 3D art. Perfectly reasonable. Except I've been a motion graphics artist for 10 years. And I've never been a person who can draw. So I have to. I'm good. Give me a second. Oh, it hurts to laugh. I'm bringing. I'm gonna create a new stack now. Just gonna do something else. Photo web. What the hell is all this stuff? The letter. That's fine. And we're gonna use this for some notes. So, chat. What, if anything, what are our advantages for grant campaigns? I have to cough again. All right, so do I think that they'll be defending story games, fudging, railroading, etc.? Yes, I think that they will. I've noticed a need for some kind of Skogie B says I've noticed a need for some kind of short, concise document to point people towards the definition of what we're calling grant campaigns instead of 30 blog posts and videos. No, well, a short, concise document. I don't know, man, because those are all they're like a blog post. If you want a short, concise document, it's probably going to be a blog post. If you want a short, concise audio format, that's going to be a video. You want like a shorter. If you want something that's concise and inclusive, it's going to be a book, which two of those have been released so far. But I think I'm gonna put my designer hat on. I don't get to do nearly as often nowadays. Put my designer hat back on here, and I think that let's see here. Yeah, I mean something that lays out what is going on in one spot, all in one go. I found myself having to pitch it to friends with full breath layouts of how it plays and what the knock on effects are. Yes, that's the trick. I think what we need, a la, and this is another thing that, like, no matter how much I make fun of Party on the regular, please understand that I admire him a lot because he does things in a way that, like, is just obviously correct. There's a lot of things in a way that is, like, obviously correct. Setting up a lexicon, frequently asked questions, and a lexicon on a blog, for instance, where you could look up Grand Campaign, and you just get the definition of a Grand Campaign. Short pamphlet of basic procedures and setup would be nice. John McCallan's setup is there, but I don't want to get too far off. Let's talk about what would be inside of this, because I need to convert whatever we think should be inside that tiny pamphlet needs to be in my mouth, my words coming out of my mouth on Thursday. So, oh, it doesn't register. Okay, so this drawing tablet does not register the S Pen. A link to that when you have a moment. John McGowan's book. I actually have I have a stream with John McGowan. Now you want to link to John McGowan's book. Yeah, no worries, no worries. Sure. Yeah, there we go. You want to render a pixel layer. Okay, so we're gonna go back to our stream is good too. No worries. Because I want you to buy his book and read his book. It's an excellent book. Actual play aids would be even better, like a faction sheet, patron sheet. Did you know that I actually created a patron sheet? I don't know if Scooter for Mike is still here, but I created a sheet. I called it a downtime ticket or an orders ticket that could be used for play. And I made this ticket so that people could actually, yeah, we need to go things. Yeah, faction sheet. I think that a DM screen at this point for like a list of shortcuts and stuff like that would be really interesting. Which again, I sort of did on stream, but I mostly just need I have too much of the stuff to go over right now. I need like a design intern. I need somebody that I can not pay, abuse, and is slightly smarter than ChatGPT. How to get that sorted out. Tried finding homeless. Man, I know that like people do a lot of that kind of talk on Twitter and stuff like that. Just don't do that here. It's like a very specific flavor of like funny gamer words and stuff like that. And I get it. It's fun on Twitter and stuff like that. Don't. This is kind of my homestead here. Don't put it in YouTube chat. Nothing personal against you. Let's see here. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to what was I thinking of? Okay, so we were just discussing a moment ago things that what are the advantages of grand campaigns? One of the things I'm thinking of right now is that actually specifically that prep. I think that prep is practice in grand campaigns. Anything you don't use can be just like anything that would normally go in I don't know, fucking garbage bin. Anything that normally goes in here, it actually can actually just go to your table somewhere else. A game type in which players accrue wealth, power, and faction relationships through adventuring and eventually spend these resources to impact other factions or establish their own. I that one's been difficult. It's hard. So mine has been annoying to communicate because I get what it means, and that functionally makes it useless. Because I don't need to know what it means. I need to be able to explain it to somebody else. I need to be able to explain it to somebody else. And if I can't do that, then that causes some other problems. My definition for it thus far has been that the sandbox of a grand campaign resembles a grand campaign takes the mechanical sandbox of first person shooters and other video games in terms of complexity and their individual advantages and applies that to the faction map on the campaign. That's interesting. He dodged like immediately there. Yeah, pretty cool. See, wait, so that's my first thought. What is that? Oh wait, no. What do players do in a grand campaign? What steps are required to set up a campaign? When does a grand campaign conclude? Well, grand campaigns don't conclude. That's you can regard that as a problem or something else. I interpret that as meaning that factions take turns. No, so when I say the mechanical sandbox, I mean like the fact that you have like grenades. The fact that you have like grenades and then guns, and then you have like I don't know if it was superpowers in a first-person shooter like Destiny 2 or something like that. Grand campaign is not ever concluding is an important part of the definition to communicate to people who don't know what a grand campaign is. Interesting. Okay. So the fact that you have like these different elements, these different tools that people can employ in the course of a FPS match, there is a version of each of these for the grand campaign, right? It's something like raiding a bunch of towns and villages, have to set things on fire. 5e normally thinks of a campaign as something that concludes when you defeat the big bad evil guy. Yeah, that's a problem. Whereas in like a grand campaign, you have like, okay, this person is raiding a different village, or somebody acquires like a fantastic artifact or a crown. That's what just did that fire. It made what is intended to be a building on fire, but it actually just was like the world's dumbest crown. I am not a drawing artist. I barely am. How the faction players' actions lay the land that the adventurers are living in. Yeah, so I think that the fact that NPC. Okay, so let's start off here. I think downtime is a big one. Downtime is not like a optional feature. Downtime is enforced in grand campaigns. There are encounters in grand campaigns. I feel like a lot of 5e normies have used the map, either because they've been in a campaign that, like a, either because they've run a module, right, and those mostly have maps, and also most people who DM in fifth edition, they're looking for like there's a lot of extra work that they have to do, and a lot of times it's the kind of work that they actually get really excited about. It's the kind of work that they're happy to do, that they're excited to do. Oh man, a lot of there's not music. I guess it's still going up to the back of my throat. We have a yes, we have downtime being enforced, which is very important. I have to cough again. Sorry, that's why I'm being quiet. Do we even crawl hexes? Let's see here. I don't think that they've ever used maps that were dynamic and required paying attention to. Yes, but I don't want to. No, world maps. Yes, they would set up world maps. So here's the thing: is but they wouldn't do it in a way that matters. They're just like marking out this is where the elves live, these are where the dwarves live. But for again communicating to these other people, what the whole point of this stuff is, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to bring up things that are not when I bring up an element of grand campaigns, I have to phrase it in a way that makes it clear that this, even if there's some overlap with other campaign styles, there is a clear distinction that I can mention in the immediate between this and conventional games, conventional campaigns. Well, just not campaigns at all, just conventional games. Really important. Sorry. go down. Intertable integration. Nexus of the time map character state faction. Actual domain played, not just you own a castle now story gaming. I understand the distinction there. I understand why a distinction is being made there. A good distinction, probably. All right, so we're gonna switch. We're gonna switch back to gaming while I think of this, so I can actually see your stuff at the same time. Okay. And the MMO comparison is good, a little corny, run into a lot of problems. There's not a lot of agreement on it. Um, it's not as common as it was, but there's still a little bit of like, oh, you just want to play a video game in kind of like older spaces. See here. It's true, it's just it has some rhetorical problems. It's mostly just appeasing people. Maybe not a problem at all. Something I could get them theoretically I could get them to just comply. But who knows? See here. Players can affect each other directly, lending resources, adventuring cooperatively, and indirectly by affecting massive factions. So that's what I mean by that kind of. That's what I mean by the style of play where it's. Yeah, that's what I mean by the style of play where players are doing things not just for the sake of like. Um, yeah, people are doing things not just for the sake of like because it matches their. Oh man, this is not great for me. This is not great for me. This is yeah, actually not great for me. Ooh, no, I'm just toast. What might happen is I might get a reactor overload from these. I don't know why you run the same raids every week. Players affect each other's directly. Separate. I would just separately describe the components: calendar, map, faction entities, player entities, and their dynamics. But here's the thing: I think it's other components of Grand Campaign other than the map, factions, PCs, and the calendar. Because here's the thing, it's not like the existence of up maps or factions or PCs or resources. It's the gameplay dynamic between them. I'm gonna shut down Nebulous here. We're gonna take a quick 2 minute break, and then I'm gonna load this onto, see here, window capture. I do affinity photo on this one. Let's see if it loads. It does. Cool. And we don't really need all this other stuff, so I'm going to move that here. And then, yeah, so I'm going to be back in like 2 minutes here. I'm going to use the restroom. Okay. Jesus, I feel like Nick Rekieta the other night. Oh. Does anybody have a molehill of cocaine? I've been tagged in something. Oh, let's go to here. Okay, so bullet point entities. Here we go. I have suggestions. I should zoom in on this as well. Just make small. Welcome to Home Math, gentlemen. Your government appointed entity. I probably need to make sure that this microphone is a little bit closer. If my voice stops transmitting, I'm going to talk continuously for the next approximately the next 25 seconds. And if my voice stops transmitting, I need you guys to tell me as soon as you find out, which will include some kind of lag time of about 10 to 15 seconds, depending on the latency that I set for this particular stream. So if everybody can still hear me on this side, then it means that we are good to go. And I do see that my audio input capture is still going. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to focus on where's my little Chrome chat window so I can see you guys as well. There we go. Outside that, there are player characters and also factions that influence the world state. So here's one thing I think is critical to grand campaigns specifically is grand campaigns have exponential growth. One of my favorite things to do is oh god, I'm so sick. Can't even think of anything. It's embarrassing. Okay. We have exponential growth, through through player action. This is what Gary's talking about on like page 86 of the DMG, where you're going up from like, you go from like you're supposed to prep your first city, your first town, and your first dungeon. So you have town, and then it goes to city, and then it goes to region, and I think like country is. Oh, that's where the end is. Whoops. We have like country, continent, planet, and dimensions. You're supposed to get like this exponential growth that just keeps going as soon as the players do things. So this is a gameplay dynamic that we can probably describe. There's some other bullet points here. So we have players affect the world. Players and player entities include PCs, patrons, and factions. Okay. Start at the outset, there are player characters, but also factions that influence the world state. That's important. The counter argument is to point back at the. Let's scroll back up here a little bit. Oh, I see. It's not currently just showing my chat window. Oh, it is. Sweet. The dynamic world state. The world state is determined by domain players and acting their will upon it using manpower and resources. The dynamics are where the play happens, yes, but describing the components help you understand what the hell the thing is. Yeah, no, that's correct. If I don't have any definitions, if I don't have any clear definitions for like what a patron player or a if I don't have any clear dynamics or definitions for a patron player, or let's say what the world map in a or faction map in a grand campaign actually means, or what downtime means, or because some people might think of downtime as just like, oh, well, I narrate my actions. No, downtime inside of a grand campaign is one, it's enforced. We discussed that earlier. Downtime is enforced for downtime encounters. I bring up downtime encounters because this is one metric by which player characters who are more invested in the game cover either for themselves or the rest of the party in a way that's superior through like a cover for themselves or the rest of the party by becoming superior players. Or things happening between sessions or between events at the table that are going to that can be influenced by the player characters, but the player characters don't really get to, if they can ignore them, but there are consequences. That just means that the encounter is no contest. It doesn't mean that the encounter goes away. So we have downtime encounters. That's one iteration of this. You also have stronghold encounters. Encounters at the stronghold and nation map. I bring this up because I recently started looking at my downtime encounters for Chilmus Valley because I need a way to like kind of impose on the players who weren't doing downtime at that moment in a way that could like really bring them to the forefront, especially the ones who were like just constantly asking questions, which I like when people are asking questions, especially from active players. It feels gratifying. But if you're just constantly asking me for plot hooks and then you never follow up on any of them, like, oh god, that gets really exhausting. And I need to recharge my batteries. And one of the ways I could do that is by saying, hey, by the way, just a quick reminder, somebody's trying to assassinate you this particular weekend. So go ahead and make a roll to avoid that, or throw them off the trail in some way. And what I discovered was that the consequences for the if I every time I would advance the natural timeline of these downtime encounters, I could come up with, or it would neatly fit in with the next scale of encounter. What I mean by that is if I took a downtime counter, every time I would advance the timeline, it was more appropriate and could be substituted for somebody at the stronghold scale and then at the faction scale. Yeah, faction nation encounters, which is good because like the idea behind like okay, if my downtime structure is like you could get hit by somebody is casing a joint or somebody is casing you because they're going to assassinate you at some point is like the first thing. But once I go up to the downtime encounter scale, I'm more looking at like, okay, somebody has already cased the joint and now they're going to attack you or they're going to attack somebody close to you. And so the gameplay, I explain all this to say that there's a gameplay dynamic where, aha, all tiers of play simultaneously engaged, like dragging a little bit, with one another. Should not be like pixels large. It should be like, I need my chicken scratch to be sharp, not smooth. Let me scroll down, open chat here. You have different modes of play, different skills. Time is a resource. That's important. Dynamic world. NPC entities. Yeah. So NPCs can have this thing where NPCs are really just like active participants. Start writing in cursive again. I feel like my cursive is like really neat compared to this. I do it so infrequently, so it's a lot slower. Yeah. Gameplay between different scales occurs easily and can gameplay generate new gameplay events at any scale. Support one. Players generate new hooks by acting in the world. not through their backstory. Players generate new hooks by acting in the world, not through their backstory. Yeah, that's definitely going to be important. Everybody in the Destiny orbit really likes making metaphors and using analogies, and they're all horrible at it. Everybody's horrible at it. What if there was what if you went to a bank and you told the bank that that you were gonna rob the bank, and you said that you were gonna rob the bank, but wait, let's take a step back. The bank is also a dog, and then you kill the dog. Would you be in violation of your free speech rights? Like, what the? Why are you alive? Why are you here? Lower labor for DM is a big draw with how bad burnout is. I don't think that it is actually lower labor, and I just don't. I don't think it's lower labor. I think that you have a lot of people. You have a lot of failure to launch, or yeah, failure to launch. Yeah, you have a lot of failure to launch campaigns, and the not in the Broasar itself, but in people who try out these ideas for the first time because they haven't read Appendix N, and they're not familiar with they have not necessarily seen these ideas in practice, and they haven't like necessarily run campaigns like this beforehand. People who have run West Marches style campaigns, or like something, even just a single group with like more of like a drop in drop out structure, they're able to adapt to this really quickly. But if you are coming from a conventional play standpoint, a lot of people have these like kind of failure to launch stuff, and part of that is just bad advice. Pound for pound, a conventional campaign requires a lot of DM labor to run with a fraction of the complexity. I um yes, yes, no, I agree, but I think that labor is distributed in a way that some people who, specifically the people who failed to launch, do not don't manage to handle. So I think that, for instance, if you look at like a grand campaign, a proper grand campaign begins with like a town. When it comes to the players, you have a town ready to go, and you have a dungeon ready to go. You're not asking your players to make the dungeon in the middle of the session for you. At that point, they're just thinking like, okay, well, if I could do this right this second, then I could have done it beforehand. I could have been the DM and I could have done it beforehand. And then we could have some time to actually play in the dungeon as opposed to inventing the dungeon during the session. It's a real example from my Discord of somebody who did not, who took bad advice from, I don't know. I'm not gonna say it's like no prep. It's no prep. So I think that, but for instance, if you do the prep of a conventional campaign for your first session, for just something that's like, when we're talking about, you're not trying anything wild or wacky or crazy just yet. You're just, all right, we're going to start with the town, start with the dungeon, but my expectation is that this is going to scale up in a way that a conventional campaign does. For that first session, you're probably doing about the same prep, or really less. You're still doing less, but like you're still putting in some effort that's comparable to a conventional campaign. But after that point, you're not doing your burden diminishes over time by and large. Whereas in a conventional campaign, you start with like a high amount and then it starts increasing session by session by session. And then you get a lot of burnout, which makes sense why you get to 7 sessions in. Imagine you have like seven units of prep, and then each time you go in, that figure you multiply that figure by seven. You get to like 7 sessions in, and I don't know. Okay, time is a resource. Oh, like that what this does to my circulatory system. Anyways. Yeah, dynamic world. These are all things that like so these are things like I agree, it's just like I agree with like the bullet point, but again, these are things that like somebody is going to. Maybe we should just focus on examples. So Phineas, what are some like examples or anybody else in the chat, like examples attached to each of these bullet points that you think would like fit? Some things that you would attach to these individual bullet points. It's my thought here that like you have oh perfect, perfect. We'll share on Discord. Phineas, do you want to jump into voice? Because I'm probably going to end the stream here in like 15 minutes, but do you want to jump in voice chat for like 10 minutes? I'm going to jump on voice chat for like the last 10 minutes, anyways. That will be, among other things, entertaining. After stream. No, I meant during the stream. But you do it after the stream if you like. So if I have things like my individual examples, I think my example for like the sandbox, the mechanical, I'm using the term differently. I'm using like sandbox in terms of the first person shooter sense. My example for that is like you have a mechanical, I'll say this, a mechanical toolbox which resembles first person shooters in terms of in game loops and purpose. Like think about what like a also it's just kind of like not binding all the time. So, like imagine that like what's the purpose of a grenade in a first person shooter? Generally speaking, you're trying to hurt something that can't be hurt with small arms fire. Usually, it is hard to word down with simple wording because at first, because people have not done it beforehand. But again, we're talking about dynamics, and the more we drill into it, the more you have to guess and say it aloud. Like the phrase, the mechanical sandbox of a grand campaign resembles the mechanical sandbox of a first person shooter, in that your general purpose weapons are the simple troops that you can deploy from place to place on the map, and some troops have longer range, some troops are easier, find it easier to get from place to place than others. Your version of grenades, means of dislodging enemy opponents. Or in a video game, you're trying to dislodge somebody who's heavily armored or behind cover. In a grand campaign, you're attempting to assassinate them, or you're attempting to otherwise disrupt their mode of play, right? You take away some of their trade, you besiege them. That's the kind of stuff that you're going with. Your kill streaks are spells, right? Player action domino effect campaign development. I like that. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I like the idea of like that domino effect. The idea that like sure you might have like one thing leads to another thing in a conventional campaign, but in grand campaigns you can't the domino effect just continues, right? It's not that like one you can occasionally have causal relation. That's not unique to grand campaigns. What's unique to grand campaigns is you can't stop the domino. right? Exponential domino effect, relentless. Yeah. So that's like, and again, we're wording this in ways that are they're going to, I got another message here. We're wording this in ways that are going to, oh, no worries, bud. Um, like I mentioned earlier, you have the idea that your players are, or these people, my opponents might say ridiculous things like, "Oh, but my campaign has a domino effect. We had like, all right, well, what was your domino effect? Well, they did one thing, then another thing happened. It's like, all right, that's really interesting, but the way that I'm wording this is no, no. The players went to a town and they went into a dungeon in their first session, and a bunch of things happened as a result of this session, right? Kobolds left the dungeon with a plan to resurrect a green dragon, and some whites stole a cross that they planned, a holy artifact that they were planning to corrupt, and the mayor's daughter went missing down in the dungeon and appears to have been teleported somewhere else. Players' actions or inactions. And whatever they do next is going to have that similar scattered domino effect across the. And when they came home, the town was burnt to the ground. Maybe. So this kind of, and then the next session, the same quantity of dominoes, but the scale increased a little bit. Next time, the kobolds had actually resurrected the green dragon. And then the green dragon actually took over another town. And then the green dragon actually started a hatchery and began birthing a bunch of little green dragon babies. And then the green dragon collected gold. And then the green dragon started advancing the scale or the rate of its children's development by having them sleep on this gold. Because of course we all know that's how dragons truly age. It's not really by terms of years. They age by sleeping on larger and larger hordes. Avalanche. I like that. Yeah, it's. I was thinking earlier that might be like some kind of like snowball effect, which is probably better to people because that's the whole idea. Is you have snowball rolling downhill. Chain reaction I would not use because that's something that connects too well with the DM's impression of the campaign. They thought like, oh well, I made these decisions because I thought it would be cooler for the narrative. Like, oh, this player really made it clear that they were really intent on killing this. Like, does develop some personal animosity with this particular campaign villain across the course of the campaign. So I made the villain. I gave the villain a few extra hit points so that this person could kill them next round. I think it's okay to just go with domino effect or snowball effect. This will be fine. Yeah, mechanical toolbox resembles FPS in terms of game loops and purpose. Yeah, so like, oh, shoot, this is like the Halo gameplay loop. Yeah, poke, shoot, come on, do it. There you go. Nade and we'll say cover. Yeah, poke, shoot, nade, cover, reload becomes things like you know, a battle or will advance, fight, siege, conquer, and rebuild. Yeah, it just never stops. Always on campaign. Okay. So I think that's all I got for stream today. Apologies again. I think I like this though. Still think where I'm using for one thing I'm using my drawing tablet again. For another thing, we'll eventually just do as I am taught by Full Sail on how to actually draw because it's mostly just a technical thing. I can sort of copy objects by eye. The steadier and steadier my hand slowly gets and start copying objects by eye, but I don't really understand where the lines are supposed to go. And there's a lot of this is just kind of like technical, like, hey, make sure that regardless of where you're placing XYZ, you just like put a right angle here and then put a right angle here. Make sure that these two things are right angles if you're doing this kind of perspective drawing. And it turns out if I do that, I used to not even be able to do this. I'm making some kind of I'm making some kind of advancement here. This is terrible. This is awful. This is what a third grader could do easily. But, but, it used to be beyond me. Still, I have now advanced the level of third grader. See, the irony is like I used to do that stuff. Those principles I'm really familiar with when it comes to developing like machines and objects like that, right? So I can do like, can I show this on stream? I can. I'm pretty sure I can if I just go to like. Can I show this on stream? Sounds ominous, but it's not. I promise. Let me go to like monitor 2 and open up photos. I think it's like upload stage 2 is so I used to do this thing called every day, so I would just every single day I would make a new render on Cinema 4D. Let's see here. And the first series that I did was like 2300. It was a lot of them. Breach floating red flare. No, that wasn't. Oh, sudden quad rocket. Okay. Show me the money. There we go. And so there's certain places where smoothing it feels right, and then there's other places where like slightly harder angles are good, and the places where I'm quote smoothing it are more like just a little bit of beveling on the side, right? So it gives an illusion of like a little bit of smoothness or like advancement. This is more advanced technology because it's been molded in some way, and that's represents to us that it's there's some kind of like expert craftsmanship involved. But besides that, it's not like this is clearly still, even though there's a little bit of smoothness to it, like it's clearly not organic, if that makes sense. If I have to ask, this felt good. It doesn't feel like a ridiculously hard edge. I don't think it's actually like a perfect edge there. Like I said, I think there's like a little bit of beveling that I put on this, but even here the resolution isn't so high that I can quite see it. This is what I should have turned in. I'm an idiot. I should have turned one of these in for one of my art submissions because they sent me back like, hey, we got your prior art submissions. Also, we want a for the portfolio review. They're like, now we need some hand drawn stuff from you though. It can be in like Photoshop or whatever, but it can't be used with like pre-rendered assets or whatever. I don't know. That felt nice to brag about because this was actually really fun. Fun fact: part of this texture was created with AI. I've committed great sin where part of this texture was created with AI. I started like layering it on top of other stuff, but this model is mine, and the way that I textured everything is hard surface modeling stuff is hard. My buddy's way better at it than me. It took me a really long time to figure out. Took me a really long time to figure out. I mean, a really long time. Nonsensically long time. But once you learn again, it's like the other art stuff that I'm now learning with hand drawing. It's like there are specific principles that you need to complete and follow, and then you just need to suffer and continue practicing. Okay, it's like it's that meme. It's like how to draw for dummies, and you open the book. It says draw, then you start weeping. Like, damn it, this is what I wanted. Yeah, there's a few specific. When it comes to hard surface modeling, a lot of it is literally just learning where to place these polygons. And in something like Cinema 4D, which I've used for many years now, is literally just taking advantage of the fact that like every one of these polygons, edges, and points, they have like specific coordinates. Lots of skill stack, thankfully. You spend a long time to learn one and less time in the next one, and so on and so forth, and to pick up stuff fast. That's very encouraging. Excited to hear that. All right. I'm going to close it out for the evening here. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'm going to be in the Discord. And then I'm going to take some Tylenol. My neck hurts. But thank you so much for hanging out. It's my sixth stream. I will. Something I've been meaning to do, and something I'm now doing, is instead of just like doing streams impromptu, I would just do it on. I would stream on any Tuesday where I don't release a video. I'm gonna stream, and then maybe I will release that. Maybe I will do the video anyways. Or maybe I will do a stream anyways on Tuesdays, but like I'll make Tuesday a regular streaming day if I don't have a video. Then the other thing is, I believe Rolling Bones has a stream in an hour here, so I'm going to put that. If I just type up Rolling Bones, I get like one of the best explanations of game design that I did ever on a show with Rolling Bones Ryan. But I'm not going to link that here. I'm going to, well, maybe I can link it here because nobody can stop me. But more importantly, he has so you guys can put this here. Yeah, so the idea here is that I'm not going to just like stream at random and on random subjects. The idea is more specifically, I'm going to videos. There we go. Live. Perfect. He's got a show in 40 minutes here that I want all of you to go watch. All one of you. However many it is. There we go. There's the link to that stream. In nice. It's excellent channel. Bone Bones is yes, I saw that you sent the bullet points. Those look very good. Trying to close out the stream because I can feel another coughing fit coming, but thanks again. Oh, that's what I was saying is I have a task list that I'm adding to anytime I come up with like stream points, things to cover on stream. I'm putting those inside the task list so I could just like write them down, write some notes on it, and then bring that back out to like when I'm actually on a stream, I will just be following those bullet points or those little notes that I've set for myself, those tasks that I've set for myself, as opposed to just doing freeform streams. Because like, oh, we'll just talk about whatever. That's not good radio. I listen to a lot of Dick Masterson. I used to listen to some Tom Likas. I was never a Howard Stern fan because I just wasn't in the right spot to listen to Howard Stern or like Rushbo or something like that. Not that I think I would have liked Rushbo, but I mean, we're talking about good radio. There's like people who know how to do it, and so the person I listen to right now, that's Dick Masterson. I want to follow that format in a way that's like not super boring. And that's why I recommend Rolling Bones because he's got good radio down. He does streams with other people and like does this really fun back and forth. Oh, maybe that's what I really need to do is I need to find a co-host. We'll see. All right, see you guys.